Welcome to Dalma Mix. In this video, I'm going to show you how I transformed a plain wooden blank into this decorated jewellery box with a felt lining. The blank is a pretty well constructed pine box with a magnet for closure and just some standard hinges. So the first step is to prep the box by removing the hinges and sanding off any rough bits. From the beginning, I knew I wanted to dress it up in lace and make it be the main design element. This is a tried and tested method. You might have seen it before on my channel. It just adds a lot of texture and completely changes the texture of the surface of whatever you're working with. This is just some wider synthetic lace. I bought it from a discount bin in a haberdashery shop. They often sell scraps at a discount. I often source my lace from charity shops or secondhand shops, or even cutting it off clothing that is irredeemable. So I roughly measured by eye and cut off some segments of the lace big enough to cover the surfaces that I want to cover. And for glue, I'm using gel matte medium, as it works really well with fibers, and I add a very generous layer under and on top of it, fully saturating the fibers. This reduces the porosity, so it won't drink up that much paint when it comes to that stage. I added the lace in different stages. Instead of trying to measure to the millimeter, I just stuck on slightly larger pieces and cutting off the excess. And then it's just simple to cover the other surfaces in the same way. I also wanted to add this trim around the edges as another design element. And to do this, I could still use the gel matte medium. I was just a little bit impatient, so I used PVA glue instead. PVA is really good and reliable. However, I wouldn't cover the surface of the ribbon, as I think it would gum up some of the texture, whereas the gel matte medium completely absorbs and leaves the original texture unaltered. I had to do a little bit of fit measuring on the back side where the hinges go, as this trim is way too thick for the hinges to go over, so I had to leave careful gaps so that it would fit and I could reassemble the box once the painting stage is done. For the top of the box, I'm not going to do too much, as I want it to remain mostly flat, with mindfulness towards the usability of the box, but I will add these lace butterflies with the same method of gel matte medium. And that's what our box looked like before painting. I made this box with a particular person in mind, and their favorite color is blue, so the whole box is just going to be blue. And I started with a nice cerulean for a base coat. And I'm just going to cover almost every surface inside and out You may be wondering why I left a gap in the middle. Well, I knew from the start that I was going to add a lining, so I knew for sure that the very middle was going to be covered, but I still wanted to make sure I got into all of those edges, as I didn't want any raw wood to pick through. Watching back the painting process is kind of satisfying to me. It's almost like coloring book feeling. But do let me know in the comments, do you like watching the painting process or do you skip through it? Should I keep it in the videos or just fast forward to the next stage? After the base coat is well and fully dry, I used a completely different blue. This is a much creamier consistency, better quality acrylic paint. I think the color is called Mermaid Lagoon, but I think it matches with the base coat really well. And what's most important is that although I cover the flat surfaces completely, the textured surfaces where the trim and the lace is, they're going to have this dimensional look that I got really easily just by overbrushing and not using too much paint on my brush. And it's almost like magic. There's all this depth and variation of color without me having to work for it too hard. For the next layer, I'm using a straight up teal with an even lighter hand, highlighting the raised edges even more and kind of putting it on in a patchy way so there's variation of color intentionally. Of course, this is a question of taste, but this is my preference. I like a little bit of a randomness, as nothing I make is really perfect or exacting. I prefer the weathered look much more to the really clean and pristine aesthetic. For the next layer, I added a little bit of olive green. It's still going to look blue, it really will. I just wanted to infuse a little bit more color variation, and I think it led to something wonderful. You can still see those shades of blue and teal shine through. With the painting stage almost fully done, it's time to add the felt lining. I tried to color match as closely as possible with the available felt, and this time I actually did measure quite precisely, as I can't uncut the fabric once it's done, and I definitely don't like wasting material. To preserve the softness of the felt, I'm going to use more of that gel matte medium, but only under it. As I said, this sticks really well to fabric, but it doesn't compromise it. Still remains kind of soft and with that little bit of flexibility and give from the thickness of the felt. With that stage done, I no longer need the box in two pieces, so I'm going to just reattach the original hinges. They're gold colored and not very fancy looking, but they're okay. Actually, with the addition of the few layers of paint, the holes have been filled in a little bit, so they fit in even more snugly. And once again, we have a nice functioning box, and the magnet works just fine through a few layers of paint. As a finishing touch, I'm going to add a little bit of gold paint, and for this I'm using my finger and with a very sparing amount, just gently rubbing on the surface, catching only the most raised points, and I think that brings the design completely to life and it matches the original hinges. This was a fairly simple project. I just wanted to show how just by adding texture to something simple, you can make it look quite interesting and sophisticated. It's most definitely one of my favorite methods. Please do let me know in the comments what you think about this project. I always love to hear your feedback. Thank you for watching. I hope you're having a nice day. Bye.